You work hard, earn a decent wage, and yet, when you look at your bank account after payday, you probably feel like you're falling behind. That anxiety is real, but the benchmark you're using is completely manufactured. We spend our days comparing our actual lives to highly edited, curated social media feeds where everyone appears to be living their absolute best life. The statistical reality is that 59% of Americans cannot cover a $1,000 emergency from savings, and this lack of liquidity applies to high earners too. 66% of the country lives paycheck to paycheck, including 44% making over six figures. We routinely measure our success against the outlier wealth of the 0.1%, wildly distorting our perception of a normal, healthy financial life. According to the Federal Reserve's data, the median net worth for Americans aged 35 to 44 is $135,600. Constant social comparison creates a false sense of urgency to constantly try and catch up with the lifestyle on your screen. This pressure often drives people toward high-leverage gambles, panic buying, and shortcuts that cost them their time, health, and capital in the long run. Cash sitting in a bank account isn't doing nothing. It is actively buying you a time buffer, which is the single most undervalued asset in personal finance. This quadrant chart maps risk against your time buffer. Parking your living expenses in a high-yield savings account pushes you toward the 12-month tier, the zone of peace. The opportunity cost here? By holding heavy cash, you pass up potential higher returns in the stock market, but the behavioral outcomes offset that cost. A massive cash buffer means you never have to take a job you hate out of sheer desperation. You stop relying on credit cards for emergencies, and you eliminate the stress that causes relationship-ending fights over money. You don't have to fund a year of expenses overnight. Start with a smaller milestone. Cover 1 to 2 months of living costs. That alone breaks the cycle of panicking every Thursday before payday. Liquidity buys you the immediate mental bandwidth to stop making reactive decisions today. Consumer debt rarely arrives through a single massive purchase. It sneaks in. It's $100 here, $50 there, a slow drain normalized, until it becomes death by 1,000 cuts. Calculate your debt-to-income ratio by dividing monthly debt payments by your gross monthly income. Keep this under 36%. Missing this target is brutal. At current interest rates, an average $7,800 credit card balance quickly balloons into a $16,000 payback block over time. Fixing this ratio demands a specific trade-off. You have to aggressively deflate your lifestyle and reject the idea that carrying a monthly balance is normal. Driving down your monthly obligations also keeps your credit utilization low. That naturally pushes your credit score above 740, which qualifies you for the most competitive rates on mortgages and insurance premiums. Mastering your debt-to-income ratio keeps your cash flow under your control, instead of surrendering your future labor to a bank. Sitting entirely in cash carries its own hidden risk. Every single year, inflation quietly erodes your purchasing power. This comparison table shows your best defense. The highest return move is capturing your full 401k employer match, an instant, guaranteed return. Next is consistency. You must automate 20 to 25% of your income into broad index funds over a span of decades. To commit that much capital, you have to accept a lower take-home pay today. You also have to abandon the dopamine rush of chasing individual viral stock trades. Currently, 62% of Americans own stock. That leaves nearly half the country completely on the sidelines, missing out on the main engine of wealth building. Building wealth over the long term does not require complex stock picks. It requires consistent, unemotional participation that outpaces inflation year after year. The distance to your financial goals is almost always a knowledge gap. High net worth individuals, like Warren Buffett, consistently share the habit of continuous learning. This flowchart maps human capital. Your core input is dedicating hours to acquiring new, adaptable skills. This specialized knowledge directly increases your market value. As your earning potential rises, it builds a much larger shovel to direct toward your investments. This trade-off is difficult. It requires sacrificing your leisure time and embracing the heavy mental friction of being a beginner all over again. But increasing your intrinsic market value is the single fastest way to accelerate out of debt and fund your investments. This financial health scorecard lays out exactly what to execute first based on your current reality. If you are the overwhelmed beginner, ignore debt-to-income ratios and index funds for now. Your only job is securing your first $1,000 emergency liquidity buffer. If you are the anxious earner making over 6 figures, that salary is a vanity metric if you have nothing left over on Friday. You have to aggressively focus on lowering your debt obligations. And if you are the social scroller and your net worth is anywhere near that $135,000 median, you are mathematically winning. Stop benchmarking your actual life against an influencer's fiction. Achieving authentic financial security requires a quiet trade-off. You have to trade visible status signaling for invisible buffers and liquidity. Real wealth produces the freedom of time, resilience against a crisis, and the ability to sleep peacefully at night.